Stephen King wrote the book back in 1973. It wasn't published till 1982, but the year in which he set the novel was 2025. So it seems like perfect kind of kismet that we're out in the last couple of weeks of 2025. But really, I mean, I read the book when I was 14, and it's never left me. And it's very different from the previous film adaptation. So I knew there was another great, entertaining movie in it.
It is a dystopian story, really about an everyman just trying to take care of his family. That story, since time immemorial, is a story that you want to get behind. A good guy who's just trying to do the right thing, and then he's got to go out into the world and do some really crazy things, and the world is going to affect him in one way or the other, but he's still got to hold on to his integrity. I think that's pretty much every single person right now, trying to figure out who we are, what are we willing to do, how much does it cost? Does it cost your soul, or how much is up for grabs in a way, whether it's about your humanity, what's about what you care about. That's what it's about. And so I feel like if we can go into a movie theater together, have an action-packed, adrenaline-fueled ride together, which it's also funny and it's weird and it's a lot of wild camera moves and your heart's racing. But then at the end of the day, it's a simple story. And I think that's what I think is brilliant about it. And I think it's going to pack the theaters.
The movie is a fun ride, but it's also really thought-provoking. Stephen King wrote this in 81, 45 years ago, and it speculates about a future for America at that time that, luckily The Running Man isn't the United States' most popular show right now, but it allows us to reflect and consider what that might look like if it was. So, as fun as the movie is, I hope it's thought-provoking. We shoot some of these action sequences for 2 weeks, and you have to be very prepared to plan out what the shots are, what the audience needs to feel and experience when we make it. So that's I was such a privilege to work with them and to be on set with Glenn playing this role. We had a great time.
I read the book. This is kind of closer to the book version than Arnold's version, and that version of Ben Richards is kind of hard for especially a woman to read. He's a lot. So Glenn brings a special charm. He brings a humanity, kind of. He's just somebody described him perfectly. I think as a theater kid that works out. He has a charisma, he has a nerdiness, he has a fun to him, and I think with all of that, he can really just he can shine in so many lights, whether it's being silly or being a really angry guy without seeming violent.
It's great, man, because he has, you work with different directors, and different directors Denis will focus on the actors, but I know he's got everything going on, but he doesn't let you know that, whereas Edgar's different. Edgar's looking, and you can tell he's looking, and you're like, oh, is he not paying attention to me, or does he, you know what I mean? And then you see the final product, and you go, oh, he had the entire painting in mind the whole time. And he cares, and he's a kid. I think he stopped around 13 years old, and he still has that wonderment and that excitement and all that, and I love that in a human being. Most of the great filmmakers I know have that. It's really fun. I mean, it's really fun, but it's also really emotional. And you have decent actors. So you have Glenn going through emotional moments, and then it's really, really fun. It reminds me, I just did a movie called Weapons and Zach Kreger, so people are like, oh, these kids are missing, I don't want to see that. And then you go and see it, and people are seeing it multiple times because it's funny, it's absurd, and I think Edgar has that same thing. He realizes that, look, it's a heavy subject matter, but at the same time, we need to laugh.
I've heard you need a Valium at the end of this thing, or a glass of scotch. It's 2 hours of jam-packed stuff. This is filmmaking at its ultimate.
Glen Powell is just amazing, man. His reputation precedes him. Before I ever stepped foot on set, all I ever heard from other fellow actresses and other directors and crew is just how amazing he is, how kind he is, and he lives up to that in person. And so it made for just a wonderful experience. We got to bond over these little babies, some of whom were sick, and having to nurse them and look at each other across the room like, you okay? We're okay? Good, great. Let's, I couldn't have asked for anybody else better to get to do that with.
It's so like an Edgar Wright fastball. The thing is, I saw Edgar do Hot Fuzz. I've seen him do Baby Driver, Shaun of the Dead. I mean, the guy knows how to direct action, but he's never really unleashed it. like this. And I think that was the most exciting thing, is when you're an actor, you look at the weapons that are sort of in a different director's disposal, and you go, okay, what have they not fully thrown yet? And this is one that I'm like, oh, Edgar's primed for something really electric, something really cinematic, and he gets to deliver it with The Running Man. It was the sort of pact that Edgar and I made early on with this movie, and we both barely made it out alive, but no shortcuts. We wanted to make sure that we got it all in camera, that we really delivered, you know, that we weren't relying on post-production or visual effects as much as humanly possible to really catch the action in camera, because there's a difference. You know, when an audience is experiencing what you experience on the day, if you are feeling in danger, the audience will feel in danger, and there's something that is like a spiritual connection. There's a pact you make with the audience on these things, and I'm so glad we did it, because it really makes this movie, again, it just hits on every level. It's a rare kind of action movie.
It's so exciting. Like when I first watched the film, I was the only one in the like small cinema screening room, and then I watched it at the premiere in London, and it just made such a big difference hearing people's reactions. You know, they're literally on the edge of their seats, and they're kind of gasping at like shocking moments. They're kind of cheering when Ben Richards is doing well. It's like, it's just so infectious, and I think I think that's the beauty of cinema and going to the cinema. It's a total group experience.
I think they can look forward to a very faithful adaptation of the novel, and Edgar and Michael, they stayed really faithful to the source material, and so I think they'll be excited to see that. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen Glen Powell, but he's a lot wider than I am in the shoulders. Very strong, nice set of pecs on that young man. And so no, I don't think I would be as good of a competitor as Glen's character.
I mean, the first thing I noticed from him is his great vision, his great idea of what he wants to see, what he wants to do, and how he communicates and articulates that to the actors is just wonderful.
It was everything. I remember one point, Glen and I are running away from a burning building, and I'm just looking around thinking, how did I get so lucky? You know, so yeah, it's the best, and I hope more than anything else, everyone just is along for the ride and they feel like they've just been on a roller coaster. That's my goal.